Chapter 8. The Fedogor's Curse. The dead crow on the porch railing was a declaration of war. It was a violation not just of their temporary sanctuary, but of their last, desperate hope. Liam stared at the twisted black form, at the grotesquely snapped neck, and felt something shift inside him. The raw animal fear that had hounded him for days began to cool, hardening into something else, a cold, brittle anger. They had tried to run. They had tried to hide. They had been fools. "Get your bag," he said to Sarah, his voice low and devoid of its earlier panic. "We're leaving." "Leaving," Sarah whispered, her eyes still fixed on the dead bird. "Liam, where can we possibly go?" "Home," he said, the word tasting like iron and ash. "We can't outrun it. We let it here. We almost put Carol and her family in its path. We're not doing that again. We're going back. We're ending it." The return to Carol's bright, warm kitchen was for real. They were spies returning from a mission in enemy territory, their faces masks of forced composure. "Carol, something's come up," Sarah said, her voice remarkably steady. Liam could see the immense effort it cost her. "A problem with one of Liam's main servers at work. He has to get back tonight. I'm so sorry. This was supposed to be a longer visit." Carol's face fell with disappointment, but she was all sympathy. "Oh, you poor things. First the tire, now this. Don't you worry about it for a second. Work is work. Just promise you'll come back soon when you can really relax." "We promise," Liam said, the lie heavy on his tongue. He gave Buster one last scratch behind the ears, the dog's warmth a painful reminder of the simple good things in the world they were now cut off from. The drive back was the inverse of the journey out. There was no frantic paranoia, no desperate hope of escape. The car was filled with a heavy, grim silence. They weren't fleeing anymore. They were soldiers returning to a battlefield they knew they could not leave. The dark woods that lined the highway no longer seemed to press in on them. They were simply the backdrop to the inevitable confrontation that awaited. Liam felt the imprint, the cold spot on his soul, not as a curse hunting him, but as a tether pulling him home. He didn't turn on the lights when they entered the house. The familiar rooms, steeped in the gloom of late evening, felt more honest in the dark. Sarah went straight to the fireplace and retrieved the heavy iron poker, its weight of familiar comfort in her hand. Liam walked directly to his office. The room was just as they had left it, a space contaminated by memory and blood. He sat down, the worn leather of his office chair groaning in protest. He booted up the laptop, the screen casting a pale, ghostly light on his face. He didn't bother with broad searches this time. He knew where the answer was, if it existed at all. He navigated back to the anomalous optics and fringe photogrammy forum, to the 50-year-old thread, to the digital ghost of photo negatives of Venti9. He read the man's desperate post again, and then the replies. Skepticism, disbelief. A single, ominous well-wish that was never answered. It felt like a dead end. A single, isolated cry for help that had faded into the digital void. But it couldn't be. The details were too perfect, too precise. There had to be more. His eyes scanned the page, searching for anything he might have missed. He scrolled down past the final reply and noticed something he'd overlooked in his earlier panic. Tucked away at the very bottom of the page, seemingly disconnected from the thread, was a reply from a different user, Oracletwell156. He wasn't formatted like the other posts. It was a single, long, nonsensical string of characters and numbers. RXHPC3RLB, MNLGNGA3, HBHW4UEFOZNZPBU engine. Most people would have dismissed it as spam, a corrupted post, or a troll's gibberish. But Lamb had spent 25 years in it. He had seen strings like this before. It wasn't random. It was encoded. It was base 64, a common method for transmitting binary data over text-only channels. It was a digital message in a bottle. His fingers trembled slightly as he copied the string. He opened a new tab, found an online base 64 decoder, and pasted the cryptic text into the box. He clicked Dinliker. A nonsensical string vanished, replaced by a few short lines of stark, terrifying text. Existence is pain. The image is an anchor. It doesn't live in our space, but between the cracks of perception. A camera's sensor, a flash of light, it doesn't just capture its likeness, it fixes its essence. It tears a piece of it out of its reality and nails it to ours. The imprint is its agony, a psychic nerve connecting it to the source of its wound, the photographer and the original data. Two ways to break the curse. Only two. 1. Transfer the anchor, the original file, the source data, must be willingly viewed by another. The pain will seek a new host, the curse will be passed. 2. Destroy the anchor. The source data, the card, the film, the plate must be utterly annihilated. But the anchor will not go quietly. Destroying it severs the nerve. The feedback will be absolute, a final, violent lashing out. Its death scream in reality. Liam stared at the decoded words, his breath caught in his throat. It wasn't a monster hunting him out of simple malice. It was a wounded, transdimensional being, driven mad by a pain he himself had inflicted 2 decades ago with a thoughtless click of a shutter. The dead animals, the tapping on the windows, the psychological torment, it was all the thrashing of a creature in unending agony, trying desperately to destroy the source of its suffering. And now he had the rules, the terrible, final rules of the game. He could be free, right now. He still had the corrupted files on a backup drive. He could upload the original image to an anonymous image host, post the link somewhere public, and in moments, some unsuspecting person somewhere in the world would click it. Yours would transfer. The Glimmer would have a new target. He and Sarah would be safe, he pictured it. A student in a dorm room, an office worker procrastinating, their face illuminated by the screen as they opened the image. And then the dead animals would start appearing on their doorstep. The tapping would start on their window. The thought was so vile it made him physically ill. He felt a profound wave of nausea and self-loathing. He would not do it. He could not save himself by damning another soul to this hell. That was a line he would not cross, not even to save his own life, which left only one path. He leaned back in his chair, the squeak of the leather loud in the silent house. He looked at the bloodstain on his carpet. He thought of the mangled squirrel, the broken crows, the gutted body of his neighbor's cat. That was the creature's pain manifested, and now he had to face its death scream. He closed the laptop. In the sudden darkness, he saw Sarah standing in the doorway, the iron poker held loosely in her hand, her silhouette framed by the dim light from the hall. She had been watching him, waiting. "You found something," she said. It wasn't a question. "I did," he said, his voice heavy. He stood and walked over to a small, locked metal box on his bookshelf, where he kept old hard drives and memory cards. He found the key, unlocked it, and pulled out a small, black rectangle of plastic. The original SD card from that 20-year-old camera, the anchor. He held it up for her to see. "There are 2 ways out of this," he told her, his voice low and steady. "One is monstrous, the other is dangerous." He explained the decoded message, the nature of the imprint, the 2 terrible choices. He didn't spare her the details. When he finished, Sarah was silent for a long moment, her gaze fixed on the tiny black card in his hand. It looked so small, so harmless, yet it held the power to destroy them. "We're not cursing someone else, Lem," she said finally, her voice ringing with an absolute conviction that matched his own. "We are not those people." A profound sense of relief washed over him. He had known she would say that, but hearing it aloud solidified their pact. "Then we have to destroy it," he said. "Here, tonight." It said the creature would lash out, a final attack. Sarah looked from the SD card to the dark, empty hallway behind her. She tightened her grip on the iron poker, her knuckles gleaming white in the gloom. The fear was still on her face, but beneath it was a layer of hard, unyielding resolve. They had run, and it had failed. Now they would fight. "Okay," she said, her voice a whisper of defiance against the oppressive silence. "Then we set a trap."